Hey, this is Janetta. Woo-hoo, yeah, and I have something exciting for you and wonderful. There's a revolution going on in Kenya right next door, and it's being carried out by protests. The protests of young people and the Gen Z. And that protest is because they're demanding not to be overtaxed without representation. They were promised by their president that he was going to change their life, increase their value, and he was going to bring success into Kenya where Kenya was deprived of that success. He was bringing it up to date, but he did not keep his promise. I can't really explain it to you, but this young man from Corporate Junkie, he can tell you just exactly what's going on in Kenya. A revolution. Can you believe that? Listen.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining me today. All right, so let's talk about what's going on in Kenya. There's a revolution right now taking place in Kenya. And this revolution is calling for the resignation of William Ruto. Hashtag Ruto must go has been trending on social media and all over every platform on social media. This revolution right now is loud and it's clear. The people of Kenya are fed up with their leader and their leadership. They're fed up of their president who came into power in 2022, promising to improve the livelihood of Kenyans, promising to improve the economic situation of Kenyans. And what they've gotten in the last year and a half, almost 2 years of his presidency, has been the opposite. And the economy has been worse off under his administration. In this podcast, we are going to look at how Kenyans got to this position. We're going to discuss in detail why the protest is still going on even after William Ruto conceded the Finance Bill 2024, even while he backed out of it. See, I told you all in my previous video, it was never about the finance bill. Yes, that triggered it. But more than the finance bill is what has been going on over the last year in Kenya under his administration, which has been brooding. The Finance Bill 2024 was just the thing that broke the camel's back. And so right now, the people of Kenya, the youth, the Gen Zs, the citizens of Kenya, are right now revolting. They're having their own revolution right now. This week, we saw President William Ruto come out and give a concession speech where he backed out and backed down from signing into law a controversial bill which was going to put his people in hardship. We saw that play out this week as a result of the protests this week and last week that has been going on for the last few weeks. Take a listen to President William Ruto giving his concession speech. And I'll be right back.
Consequently, having reflected on the continuing conversation around the content of the Finance Bill 2024 and listening keenly to the people of Kenya who have said loudly that they want nothing to do with this Finance Bill 2024, I concede, and therefore I will not sign the 2024 Finance Bill, and it shall subsequently be withdrawn, and I have agreed with these members that that becomes our collective position.
Okay, so that was William Ruto. However, it's bigger than that. It's not just simply the tax hike. It's more than that. It's corruption, it's mismanagement of funds, it's how this government and this administration came in and totally turned the economy upside down. We're going to look into William Ruto when he came into power, when he was contesting to be president. This president came in speaking fancy, talking good talk, and promising a lot of things, which many Kenyans, young men and women in Kenya were inspired by that. They were inspired by his move to bring change to the country, his proposal to change the economy. Let me give you a few things that candidate William Ruto in 2022 was proposing to do for his country, which is how he earned the vote, which is how he was able to get elected. He was proposing all of these things. Here are a few things that he proposed, and we'll have a conversation about this. So, he proposed to increase the national savings. William Ruto pledged to pump up Kenyan savings to 57% of GDP, similar to that of China. He also promised to improve infrastructure and connectivity. He promised to construct 100,000 kilometers of fiber optics connection network to Kenya. He also promised to lower the cost of living. We're going to talk about that, because that is one fundamental aspect that he failed to do. He promised to improve and lower the cost of living, and promised to lower that cost and create jobs, emphasizing on the poor in Kenya. That was what he promised to do. He was going to lift people out of poverty. He was going to improve the economic situation in Kenya. He also promised to promote economic growth, boosting the agricultural sector, boosting food security. He promised also to invest at least 250 billion shillings in 5 years to boost these areas in Kenya. He promised to also provide access to credit to the people of Kenya, and to make new homes affordable for Kenya. So basically, to improve the way of life. So if you were a citizen in Kenya and you heard some of these things and you were young in Kenya, you can kind of see how people were inspired by that. You kind of see how that type of promise was exciting to a lot of people. Was exciting to a lot of young men and women, especially the Gen Zs, who are starting their careers, who are starting their professional careers. A lot of them have graduated from college professionally, studied in major industries. They're out of college and they can't get a job. Now, what Kenyans have seen since he's gone into office is mismanagement of funds. They've seen their MPs make 1.1 million shillings and getting a proposal. William Ruto, while he was in office, proposed to increase his MPs, his senators' salary from 1.1 million shillings to 2.1 million shillings. They've also seen him take lavish trips, go to the United States on a $1.5 million jet, spend lavishly, wasteful spending with the government. They've not seen none of these stuff that he's promised to do take place. As a matter of fact, he has now become the presidency that he criticized. He criticized the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta, who was the previous president of Kenya. He criticized that presidency of mismanagement of fund, corruption, and he came in to do the opposite, to provide a much balanced approach to improve the way of life. But what they've seen is a worst off of the same thing. And more importantly, what Kenyans have also seen is a president who is more in bed with the West, with the United States, than serving their interest.
Did you hear that? This is why those young people are protesting, because he promised, and he's spending that money in areas that they did not agree on. Let's continue to listen to what is being said. This is why they're angry. This is why they're protesting.
President William Ruto also has allowed himself, under his presidency, he has borrowed more money from the IMF. As a matter of fact, this whole tax hike was as a result of the IMF instructing him to do something about his budget, to balance his budget. According to Reuters, Kenya has reached a staff-level agreement with the International Monetary Fund. The organization said, paving the way for the disbursement of about $976 million. The fund is said in a statement that if the executive board approves a second review of Kenya's resilience and sustainability facility, it will have immediate access to $120 million. The lender, which is IMF, also urged the East African nation to adjust its 2024-2025 budget to include more revenue-raising measure, which is why he proposed the tax hike. That whole tax hike was going to raise $2.7 billion within a span of 12 months, right, for Kenya, which is what the IMF was looking at in order for them to be able to borrow him more loans at the expense of putting his people in hardship. That's why that happened. So you're looking at a president who did not consider the hardship that his people were facing. He's already gone to the IMF. Kenya has been going to the IMF for a long time. As a matter of fact, Kenya's total debt to the IMF exceeds $2.68 billion since April of 2021. When he came into presidency in January, he was approved millions of dollars, which he borrowed from the IMF. And then he was also asking for a new loan, which was up to $447.9 million from the IMF. He was immediately going to have access to $120 million of that if he and his cabinet members balanced their 2024-2025 budget, which is why this was going on. Now, you would ask, what did he do with all the money he got from the IMF since he came into office, especially with one that he was approved of in January? What did he do with that money? Your guess is as good as mine. This is why Kenyans are upset, because they saw him lavishly spend money. Wasteful spending, both he and his ministers and his leadership cabinet were wasteful spending, corruption. So Kenya has been borrowing money, not fixing and improving the way of life for their people. But that money has been going to the pockets of both he and his minister, to the point that he was even proposing a salary increase for his MPs while his people are suffering.
And let me tell you another tidbit. This is being started by the Gen Z generation. And you know, these Gen Zs are not being tolerant. They're not allowing excuses. They want jobs, they want to make a living, and they don't want to be overtaxed and overcharged. And they're just fed up with it, and they're going to do something about it. And I want you to listen real closely, because just think about this. 46% of the Kenyan population are Gen Zs. And I think, I can't say for sure, but I know that Haiti's population is in around about at least between 46 million or 50 million young people, or people. Let's just say people. And 46% of their population are Gen Z people. So you know there was an uprising. And it not only happened in Nairobi, but it happened in various areas all throughout Kenya. The young people are protesting and resisting President Ruto's plan for taxation without any credit. Nothing happens. I'll just say taxation without representation. But I can't explain it like this young man from Corporate Junkie can explain it. So I want you to listen to him very closely.
While his people are in dire straits, how about give that money and plug it into the economy like he promised he was going to do? No, he did not do that. He did not use that money to improve his economy. He did not use that money to improve the way of life for his people. And on top of that, because he lavishly spent all that money, he was now going to tax his people. You see how that's working? It was going to tax his people that never got the benefit of the funds and the loan he got from the IMF. It was going to now squeeze them to pay back a loan that he lavishly spent. So let's talk about another issue that may have perhaps fueled the anger of Kenyans. And this will be the choice of William Ruto to send 1,000 police force to Haiti. He pledged 1,000 police force, half of whom arrived this week in Haiti, to go ahead and bring some sort of law and order in Haiti, since Haiti has now been having a lot of gang violence and disruption in that country.
Now, just think of this scenario. Kenya is sending troops to Haiti to quell the uprising of the Haitian people against corruption, their government, and what's going on in Haiti. And now, and has been for the last 2 weeks, and especially this week, that it has blown apart here in Kenya.
William Ruto again took money from the United States. This was not a pledge to do this as a humanitarian effort to help bring peace to that country. See, when you hear William Ruto talk, they'll tell you that it's a way of Kenya to bring peace to that region. How are you going to bring peace to a region when you have issues in your country? That's the question. How are you going to do all that? No, it was because he took money from the United States to clean the mess that US and France and many other foreign countries have done in Haiti for years. He was the puppet that answered the call and the order of the United States to go and clean their mess. William Ruto took money from the United States. Here's a coverage of this. So the United States pledged 14.7 billion shillings, which is equivalent to $109 million, to the UN-approved Kenyan-led police force mission to Haiti. So he didn't do this out of the goodness of his heart. He did this for money. He involved his country. He involved and pledged 1,000 of his police force, which should be in his country providing law and order, especially in the situation that's going on right now. Because he took money from the United States to go clean up their mess, to be a puppet for the West. This is another thing that is angering their own people. There is a president that's out of touch. The president who came in talking about serving the interests of Kenyans. But what they've seen is mismanagement of funds. What they've seen is lavish lifestyle. What they've seen is a president who serves the interests of West and Europe. So according to him, when you hear President Ruto talk, he says that Kenyan police force going to Haiti will be to combat violent gang kidnapping and murder in Haiti, to intervene in the situation in Haiti. When you hear that, you would think that his country, right? His country does not have none of these issues going on. There's killings in the streets of Kenya right now. There's revolt going on in Kenya. It's been going on for weeks. And this president still sends forces to another country, right, to meddle in their stuff. Something that has nothing to do with him, because he took money from the United States. Again, money that didn't trickle down to his own people. You can kind of see where the anger is. You kind of see why the people are angry. You kind of see why there's a revolution in Kenya. You kind of see why it was never about the Finance Bill 2024. That was just the trigger. You kind of see why, even after he conceded to that, people were like, no, we want you out of there. We want you out. We want you to resign. He's obviously going to be a one-term president. There's no way he's going to survive this. No way William Ruto will survive this situation. There's no way. I'll be shocked if he even finishes his term, because right now this whole thing has become an out of control situation. This is a president that has allowed outside forces to influence his presidency towards his people. He's allowed the West to dictate to him how to govern his own people. He's allowed the IMF, the United States, Europe to teach him how to govern his own people. When he was a person that people elected, when he was a personality that people elected, while he was the person that people saw while he was campaigning the entire time, no one knew that this guy was just a mouthpiece of the West. They found in him a puppet they can use for their will. You see, you might ask a good question. Why did he do it? Why did the United States tag William Ruto? See, the United States recently crowned William Ruto. On the day that the protests was at the highest, that he and Kenya were the major non-NATO ally to the United States. Think about this. The United States deems an African country like Kenya a major non-NATO ally to the United States. It was at that same day that we saw the highest protest in that country. That tells you that the people of Kenya were rebelling against a president who only serves the interests of the West. So now the question I'm asking, and the question you're asking, is why did he do it? Why did United States tag William Ruto to play this puppet thing in Haiti? Let me tell you why. A couple of months ago, even last year, there was a coup that occurred in the Sahel region, in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and a couple of other places. And then after that coup occurred, these countries ordered France and U.S. troops to leave their country. We saw in this year, a month ago, in Niger, U.S. forces leaving Niger. So in the Sahel, a lot of these countries have now driven out the West and Europe. So the United States has lost ground in a lot of these Sahel countries. In an attempt to gain the grounds they've lost in the Sahel country, they are looking at an African country who they can begin to string and perhaps plug back into that whole thing. This was just a first test for Kenya. So when they deem Kenya as a major non-NATO ally to the United States, and he answers the call like he has done to go do a dirty work for the United States in Haiti by volunteering his own people to go and die in Haiti in a mission that has nothing to do with them, and he gets paid for it. That was just the first mission for him. The second mission would have been that Kenya now was going to now accept military base, U.S. military base in their borders. That's why he did it. That's the play that the United States was working. So they grease his palm. They grease his whole ego. They use words like you're now the U.S. non-major ally in the region. He's happy about that at the detriment of his own country. That's why they did it. It's a play, and he fell for it. And the only people that saw through his whole thing were his own people. His own people that elected him saw throughout the whole thing, which is why you're seeing the revolution going on in Kenya. His own people who voted him in. There was a protest that happened last year. It was very small. It wasn't as large as what we're seeing today. People protesting the fact that this man has become something that he fought against, that he pledged to fight against. He's become the exact thing. So people protested that last year. He survived that. He's not going to survive this one because this one is Kenyans are revolted. They're saying that, you know what, enough is enough because they're seeing their president play a puppet to the West at their own demise, which is why you're seeing the hashtag Ruto must go trend all over the place. It's not about the bill. It's about him as a leader. They want him out of there. They want him gone because all he's doing is killing their country, the country that they love. People are suffering. Poverty has increased. People's way of life has gotten worse. He's lied about what he was going to do, and he's obviously done the opposite. Now that brings me to Ibrahim Traore. I mentioned earlier on that Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso may have inspired what's going on in Kenya. What do I mean by that? What I meant by that is when Kenyans are looking at a small country like Burkina Faso and they're seeing a leader like Ibrahim Traore, a leader who cut his own salary, right? And his minister's salary by 30 to 50%. A leader who is pledging, to improve the food supply in his country. A leader who is truly living up to what it means to be a leader, pushing away the West and standing on principle, looking out for his own people. When people are seeing such a person in a small country like Burkina Faso, Kenyans are saying, hold on a second. Why are we not seeing this in our own president? Why are we not getting the same type of leader in our own president? Why is this person that we elected, who said he was going to do X, Y, Z, that we heard Ibrahim Traore say, and he's living up to that? Ibrahim Traore is standing on principle. Why is our own president not doing exactly that? I can almost guarantee you that Ibrahim Traore inspired the revolution that we're seeing in Kenya. Because Kenyans are seeing Burkina Faso have a leader who is looking out for their own people, working with less and doing much more for their own people. And they have a president, right, who is running a country, one of the most powerful countries in East Africa, doing the opposite of what a guy in Burkina Faso is doing. You kind of see why people are angry about this. And let me tell you something. Kenya is not the only one that might have a revolution like this. Many African countries are watching this. Many African countries are asking the same question. How is it that our leaders cannot be like Ibrahim Traore? So it can be done. It can be done. We can have a leader who can stand on principle. We can have a leader who can tell the West and Europe to get lost, and their country will not burn. We can have a leader who can actually push back at foreign entities and push back at them and say, go to hell. And the people support him, and they can still thrive. We know we can have such things, and we can survive it. Why are our leaders not doing this? Why are our countries, who are larger, our economies, who are larger than Burkina Faso, not taking the same lead and the same stance of a man like Ibrahim Traore to improve the way of life? Why are we not seeing this? I can guarantee you that Ibrahim Traore's presidency is going to inspire a lot of revolution in Africa. I can almost guarantee you this. Because all Africans are watching what's going on in Burkina Faso. And they're seeing a man like Ibrahim Traore, who is impressive, who is a breath of fresh air, who is giving us a new identity, who is inspiring everyone, and is telling everyone, yes, Africa can have a leader like that. And a people can support a leader like that. And a country can survive any outside sanction, so-called sanction from the West against it. Once they have a leader who stands on principle, a leader who stands for the people. I guarantee you the Gen Zs in Kenya are inspired by Ibrahim Traore, which is why they're demanding of their leader the same accountability. Yeah. Kenya is not going to be the only African country We may very well see this type of revolution spring up from other African countries. We all know them. We all know these African countries. Africa is plagued with a lot of bad leaders, a lot of corrupt leaders who only serve the interests of foreigners in the country, who only serve the interests of many outside forces than the interest of the people who elected them in. We know these countries. We know them. And the citizens are watching this. And more importantly, the citizens are seeing how Kenyans are standing up to their leader. Kudos to Kenyans, for real. Kudos to them. Because they stood up to their own government and got the government to back down of a bill that was unjust. And they're now standing up to the entire administration and telling him, you must go. When the people are tired, when the people are fed up, that's what happens. If you look at the history of many countries, the one thing that sparked war and revolution in many countries has been taxes. Tax hike, unjust taxes against the people has been the one thing, when you look at history, that's really sparked war in those countries. The United States is one of those countries. This country fought a revolutionary war against England because of tax hike. There are many countries historically, because when you are burdening people, you don't do taxes, right? There's one thing that we pay taxes, and everyone understands that you got to pay tax, right? Because that tax is how the government fixes the road, builds infrastructure. We all get this. As citizens, we understand this. But then we don't understand when you start imposing unnecessary taxes on us, especially on household goods, diapers, women's product, baby product, things that we know we need to survive. You start imposing undue hardship through taxes on us. People are going to snap. This is what's going on in Kenya. That's how we got here.
Listen very closely is what this young man is saying, because this applies to us, because we're actually paying tax dollars for things we don't understand and don't know, and getting half of the story. But this is what's going on here. This is why the revolution, because these young people were promised and they were told that life would change. And what's so difficult to understand is this man, the President Ruto, he came from a impoverished situation. He didn't grow up rich, but he has become rich. And that's a question. But he made a promise to them that life would change. And they're finishing school and no jobs. None whatsoever. 46% of this generation, the Z generation, the Zoomers generation. 46% of Kenya. I get them mixed up with Tanzania because there's so many things that are happening similar in all these countries, not only in this country, but in our country as well. Promises that are made to get our votes or to get the votes of people, and then they get up there and they do the exact opposite of what they're saying. The exact opposite, but these young people are tired of it. And they set out to do something about it. And in setting out to do something about it, the plan was made. Who is their leader? They got together and they agreed. It's a whole different generation. They're not looking for that one person to lead. They're all leaders. They all want the same thing. They're all hungry for change. Killing? Yes, there was killing. Looting? Yes, there was looting. But just like us in the United States, they get paid looters and robbers. They get among in the crowd of people that are protesting very, very quietly. A protest that they're not demonstrating anger, but they're marching and saying, that you have to make a change. There's got to be a change. You can't come and tell us one thing and then do another and expect us to swallow it. We're not going to do it. Are you increasing jobs, Rudo? You're increasing jobs by sending 1,000 people to work in the fields of Israel. You're creating jobs by sending 1,000 people to work in Saudi Arabia. You're creating jobs by sending people to work in Germany and other countries. Is this how you're creating jobs? And they're going there for low and almost slave labor wages? Are you promising the Kenyans a new form of servitude? A deepening of neocolonialism? Are you making agreements with the United States that will be in profit or gain for the Kenyan people? Or are you making agreements that will help the West and the United States, Canada, and whoever? We need to look at it. It's not only Kenya, but it's us in the United States of America. It's Jamaica. It's Puerto Rico. It's Nigeria. It's so many countries. What are we doing? Are we in agreement with this? Are we in agreement? Or are we supporting these young people because they deserve a future? We let them down and we have to take the blame. But they intend to get what they want and what they need. And they're making sacrifices. One young person said this: if I die, what difference does this make? I can no longer live like this. And that's what's happening. And it will not stop here in Kenya. It will not stop in Kenya. As he's saying, Burkina Faso has done some great things. The leader has demonstrated what a leader really is. And young people are looking at it. Let's make a decision that we're going to listen to our youth. Let's make a decision that we're going to hear what they say and back them. And not listen to the naysayers that have been lying to us through different outlets of news that only report the devastating. They reported the stealing and the robbing and the killing and everything. The guns were handled by the policemen and a group of people that people in the government arranged. And they do that in the United States, and they have done it as well. Peaceful protest. No weapons, no sticks, no rocks, nothing in your hands. Peaceful protest. Nothing. So what are we going to do? How are we going to handle that?
KTN News.
Let's pass this
Get
on.
the whole story.
Let's tell people about this. Listen to this and share it with them, because we all need this message. We all need this message because this is just the beginning. So if people in the United States, you hear that they're having problems here in Africa, believe me, this time those problems are to break the chains of colonialism, neocolonialism, and modern-day slavery. Don't get upset. Realize the time has come. So share this, comment. Let me know what you think and how you feel. And please make sure you subscribe, because this is not only, this is Mama Africa Speaks. This is Africa is speaking out and letting the world know what is going on here in Africa. And do not turn your head, because it's like a fire being started, and they won't be able to put it out. So, hey, this is Janetta. See you later. Remember, blacksetradio.com. Hey, listen to me on Saturdays. And also, I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Hey, see you later. Okay. Bye-bye. Hey, this is Janetta, and you're watching Africa Speak.